Hi, my name's Al Martinez. Welcome to Untrashed. This is a program where we take trash that you get every day, and quite often you just throw it away because we've got so much of it. So what we're going to do is I'm going to make a machine that I call a wave machine. Now this is one that I made some time ago. This one is made with copper pipes and bits of wood. Under here there's a worm gear, and that's what actually creates the waves. So when I turn this crank, you can see these things moving like this, which sort of simulates water. So what we're going to do is we're going to make one in cardboard. So you just need a box like this. These wine boxes are just about the right size because they're not too big, not too small. So I'm going to take my knife. I've marked this 5 inches. I've marked this piece a little bit shorter because that's going to get glued on the inside to make it stronger. So I'll cut this. This. Let's cut in here. These wine boxes are pretty easy to cut if your Stanley knife is sharp. So it's always good to have a fresh blade when you do something like this, because cardboard is really hard on cutting edges. Okay, so that's basically the base of the wave machine. So I'm going to set that aside for a minute, and I'm going to cut this part up. And this is the part that's going to go on the inside to make the side of the box stronger. So I've done a lot of things in preparation for this because this project is actually quite time consuming. So there's going to be a lot of, I've just got one of these already made, but we'll get to that shortly. So I cut these parts. That. Cut this one like this. And I'll set those aside. Set these extra pieces aside. So this is basically what I've done. This is one I prepared earlier. So the inside of this box has 2 pieces of cardboard. So the pieces that I just cut are going to fit on the inside of this to make that stronger, which is what I've done here. So now that I've got this part here, I'm going to make the waves. And the waves I'm going to make from bits of cardboard that I've already cut. So this is where you need a lot of extra bits of cardboard. And you can get them from different size boxes. So what I've done is I've cut these pieces 3 inches wide. And they're just a little bit shorter than the length of the box, because I want to be able to these things to move like this. The other thing I've done is I've made these wave parts stronger by what is called cross-lamination. So these lines in the cardboard is the way they make the cardboard. So the lines go one side and they've got paper on both sides, but they've only got one way. You can see this one goes crossways, but this one bends quite easy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to glue this one to this one, and that makes it stronger. So when they do things like deliver refrigerators and washing machines and anything that's sort of heavy and strong, they cross-laminate these pieces. So I've glued quite a few of these together, and my hot glue gun isn't quite hot yet, but I'll tell you what I've done. So I've taken these pieces like this, taking my pencil, I just put a rough line down the middle, and I draw a line down the middle. So this is one thing that you can do, it's an option. So you can see that when I've cut this, rather than cut it straight, I've cut it like a bit of a wave. And that's something that I've done on this one, which you can see that has been finished. So these are the parts. Two of these, when you cut them out, you get it out of one piece of 3 inches wide and the length of the box. So we'll set that aside because I've already done that. So I've got these pieces, they're cut, and the next thing I need to do is I need to make a pivot angle here, and I'm going to use a metal rod. So one of the things I used to use a lot of, which you can't quite find anymore, are metal coat hangers. For some reason they've become extinct almost. So what I did is I went to a thrift store, and for $2 I picked up this cool, I think it's a dish rack. And what I was looking for when I bought this is I was looking for a long piece that was long enough to go across here, that is going to be this axle. So I looked at this and I saw this part. This part right here is perfect. Okay, because that's wider than the box. You can see that. So this is where it gets a little bit tricky, because cutting metal like this is a little bit unusual. So what I have these bolt cutters, and these bolt cutters are specifically designed for cutting heavier metal than the kind that you just use like this. So I've taken this and I've cut this right here. And I'll take this and I'm going to measure the box so I don't cut it too long. So I'm going to cut that about right there. So the nice thing about these bolt cutters is they're strong. So these are good for trimming your toenails. Set that aside. Now the thing about bolt cutters is it leaves it really a rough edge here. So I've got my file. I'm going to take my file and I'm going to file off all the sharp edges so you don't cut yourself. And it's easier to push through the cardboard holes, which will show you how we do those. Okay, so we've got that side. For those of you who have parents that have a garage full of tools, you can take this outside, and if it's got a grinder, you can just grind that really quickly, and that's quick smart. So here's one I prepared earlier that's nice and smooth. So that goes through these holes quite easy. How do I make those holes? So after I've cut all of these, what I'm going to do is I'm going to punch the hole, the pivot hole, off center, because what I want to do is I want this to drop like that. So this hole is going to be the pivot point, and this part of the wave wants to drop. And that dropping part is the part that's going to be able to lift it and let it lower all on its own, because it's just a piece of cardboard. So what I've done is I have, let's just see if this hot glue gun's, and I'll show you how I did this one. So that's cross-laminated. I've got that line down the middle as a rough guide. I'll take my Stanley knife and I'm going to make a wavy cut. You don't want to make it too wavy because then it's difficult to use, so I do it gradually. The ones I've made in the past, they'll have straight slats. Okay, so I've got 2 of those. Got 2 of those, and when you put them together, they create waves already. So, the pivot point on these, I've made 9 inches from the end. So I'm going to use one of these to put a mark here. So I've got my awl, and this awl is the same size as my axle piece, so this works out good. So I put a mark there. Take the next one. I put a mark there. And then I've made this piece of wood that has a big hole and it's quite thick. So I take my awl, I put that on there like that, and I push this through. And I make that hole nice and smooth. And that means that this slides on there nice and easy. So we'll do that to the second one. Okay, so that's that. And then, so when I was making these, I had to figure out how many of these do I need to create a filling of this with a little bit of spacing. The spacing that I'm going to use these bottle caps. So I've made the bottle caps all with holes, and I'll show you how I did that. I've taken the bottle caps, put it over here. Presto, you got a hole. Make that hole nice and smooth. So that slides on, and then you put your waves on there. Okay, you put another bottle cap on, put your waves on there. Put another bottle cap on, put your wave on there. So you've got that spacing there so they can move, and you sort of fill up that you don't have to do it exactly. You want space so these things move up and down freely. So the other thing I wanted to do is I wanted to make them look a bit like water. So I took some blue painter's masking tape and I covered the ends of these with masking tape, which you can see most of them here, but I left a couple undone so you can see how I do that. So I'll take my blue painter's masking tape and I'll show you with these wavy ones, because these are the ones that are a little bit more tricky. So I pull this up like this. Then I hold this on its end like this. And because of the light, you can see exactly where this is in the middle. So I'll put that like that. And then with my finger, I'll just push it down over that edge of the cardboard. like that. When I get to the end, just cut that off like this. Now this is the part that's a little bit tricky, and you need to know, for those of you that do sewing, you know that when you do curves like this, you have to cut darts, because when the material folds over, it either wants to spread or it wants to contract and bunch together. So I'm going to make a lot of little cuts here on both sides. And that just makes folding the tape over the edge a little bit easier. So then I'll just take my fingers and push that over like that. And you can see some places where it opens up, and there's some places where it bunches up. And that's basically the purpose of the darts. So do that like that. The ones that are straight, easy peasy. And put that in the center. Push it down over the center there. Off the excess. And then this one's pretty easy to do. Just like that. Okay. So I think I've got one more curved one that I need to fill this box. So these are all designed for this width box and this length. So I'll put this other curved one on here. Put the straight one on the end. I'm going to see how that fits in my base here. Okay, look at that, perfect. And I could put another bottle cap in here, but it's okay if it's just like this. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the ends of the axles. Oh, one more thing. It's marking these holes, and this is kind of important, but you can sort of play with this idea. So with this box here, which is the one that I cut, once you've got your waves, you hold your waves up like this, and you want just a little bit of the wave just above the top of the box. You can have it below, but I like it a little bit above. So I'm going to take that like that. Take my awl, put a mark there, and basically that's going to be the pivot point. The way I found the other side, I take a pencil, take my finger, and I measure from the end of the box to the tip of the pencil. That's the distance from here to there. Turn the box over. Make a mark there. Do the same thing from the top edge. Just that much. Turn the box over. So that little cross is where the hole goes. Okay. So when you've glued both of these in, you're going to punch it through 2 layers of cardboard, which makes this nice and strong, which is what I've done with this one. So you can see 2 layers of cardboard, and I've got the holes both sides. I'm going to take this, put it in here, and push one side of this axle through there. Take this and push the other side here like this. I'll just space these out a little bit, like that. So then what I'm going to do, because I don't have to pull this apart anymore, I'm going to put a little bit of hot glue on the ends here so it doesn't pop out. Just a little dab, you don't need a lot. Okay, so now we've got all the waves. So what's going to make these things move up and down? Like I showed you on that, it's a worm gear. Now there's a couple ways you can do this. And the way that I've done it in the past is I've actually made them in wood, which is a really complex thing. But because we're making things out of trash or inexpensive stuff, we're going to use something different. So we're going to use this pool noodle. And the pool noodle, I'm going to cut it. Let me just glue these things in here so they don't keep falling around. Can you imagine life before hot glue? Man. Okay, so now we've got this inside dimension that we're working with. So what I did with this one is I put 2 pieces of cardboard cross-laminated as the end caps on this pool noodle. So the first thing I did is I measured the pool noodle, and I took 2 pieces of cardboard that are cross-laminated, put them together like this, put them on the inside here, and that's the length that you're going to cut this. And it's a good idea to make it a little bit loose rather than too tight, because if it's too tight then it's going to bind and just give you problems. So now with this pool noodle, I'll just cut it to length. Okay, so that's going to be the worm. Pretty much the same size as this one. So then I cut these parts out. Oh, and the other thing is that the other thing that you need to buy is a piece of doweling. And this particular dowel is 5/8 of an inch, which is a little bit smaller than the inside opening of this. And this is what I did for this one. I took a bunch of these bamboo skewers and I glued them to the outside of this like that. Space all around so they fit better in here. So you can't really see that there because it's already glued together, but take my word for it, it works. The other thing you could do is you could get, I think it's PVC electrical conduit tubing, and I think that's just the right size for this. You could use that as well. So anyway, how I made this is I took some string and I wrapped it around on a spiral like this. Took my marker, made marks where those string lines were. Then I took my knife and I basically cut these grooves in this to create this. So you can see that when you look at one groove, the groove moves either this way or that way. So this is called an Archimedes screw, and this is used a lot in all sorts of things like drill bits and screws to put things together. They use them in farming to move grain. They use them in water things to move water, all sorts of things. So anyway, so this is what I made to move the waves. So what I need to do is I need to figure out where that's going to be and how high. So I've already decided that it's going to be down this low, and what I did is I cut a slot all the way down so that the worm gear just drops in rather than trying to push it between the thing, because all of this has been glued together, so you can't, and the box isn't flexible enough. So that basically goes like that. So now we have this sort of wave machine pretty much put together. So now when I turn this, you can see that it makes waves. Okay. The options you have now is with this end is to make some sort of a handle. So I think I made one before. I just need to find out where I put it. Is it in this box? Is it in this box? No, it's not in that box. Oh, here it is. It's on the table in plain sight where nobody could see it. So I'm going to take this. I'm going to put that on there. I'm going to hot glue it on. So this is one of the few times you have my permission to put a lot of hot glue on here. The other option is that you could make the hole a bit more accurate, but I just had a punch that was close to that size. So I just punched a hole and I thought, I'll just use the hot glue to fill in the gaps. So in terms of how you create this, I'm going to let that dry, cool. The things that you can alter or do your own version is what you do to the tops of the waves. You can make them different colors. You can sort of use blue-green. You can use paint. You can color the outside of the box. You can put this up on a platform so it's up high. So you can see that this lever, if I went all the way around, it would hit the bottom. So you could put this up on a platform like that. It's not quite hard enough yet. But when you do, you can either make this higher so you can turn this all the way around and continuously crank it like that. Or you do something like this, which is a little bit more complicated, but sometimes it works best. So you can see that the piece of steel that I had in here has an angle, so that's the handle. So you can do a version of that on the end of this handle of your wave machine. I'll put this over the end of the table so I can go all the way around. And basically, there you go. So that is one wave machine. And again, you can do your own version. The things that I found is I did one yesterday and I threw the parts away because they didn't work. I thought it was a good idea, but it just didn't work. I put other bits on here, the spacers, and the spacers got all stuck with each other. So I thought, nope, that doesn't work. Let's try it. So the point I'm trying to make is that when you do things, there's no such thing as a mistake, okay? They're just results. And what you learn is you learn that you don't want to use that result again if you're trying to do this, or you use it for doing something else. It works for that. Okay, so it's better to do a lot of things and try out different things and try different materials. You know, the collection that I have created, different kinds, some are plastic, some are thicker. You know, this is from a hydrogen peroxide bottle, milk bottles, wine bottles, stuff like that. They're all good and it's all trash. So I want to thank you for watching. Yes, next time we'll do something cool. And remember, every little bit of untrashed helps.